Safety Committee to order. Apologize for us starting a few minutes late. Many of us are running from other committee members or come out of the committees this time of year. And I know we've got Senator Robertson and Senator Payne right behind me. We're going to begin as we always do with a prayer, and our very own Senator C will open us up. Amen. Thank you. Okay, we got two bills in the calendar today. We have Senate Bill 404, and we are going to be coming back to Senate Bill 356. I believe Senate Bill 404 will be fairly quick and easy. I'm going to go ahead and speak to this bill. Senate Bill 404 was brought to me by some of the departments as well as my friends and colleagues in the EMS community. When we apply for certifications, an EMT, paramedic, or others, we have to have background checks done. Those background checks are done as folks are fingerprinted. And then when they come up for renewal, currently, they have to go get re-fingerprinted again. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never had my fingerprints change. This is a pretty simple and easy bill. Just allows our friends at the GBI to hold on to those digitally. So when it comes time and they need to be rerun, they can simply rerun. We all know the great work that our frontline healthcare workers and first responders do all the time, but most especially being taxed these last couple of years. This is an effort to make it a little bit easier for them. That's it. The bill is very simple. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I see no questions. While we're getting the sign-up sheet, does anybody want to speak for or against Senate Bill 404? Josh Mackey, come on up.
I just quickly.
Why don't you sit down on the microphone and introduce yourself?
Just Josh Mackey representing the Georgia EMS Association. We just want to say we're supportive of the bill and thank you for bringing it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mackey? Seeing none, thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee? I've got a motion to pass from Senator Jackson and a second from Senator C. I can't speak very well today. My apologies. Is there any further discussion?
So this only applies to EMTs?
Correct. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Passed unanimously. Best of luck to myself and rules. Okay. Next up, I want to thank Senator Ginn for coming back again today. We had heard his bill on Tuesday, and we did a hearing only because there were several people who had wanted to come speak in the bill that were unavailable to come on Tuesday. Since that time, he has also provided a committee substitute to the bill, which you should have in your folders. So, Senator Ginn, if you'd like to present, please, and tell us about the changes that you have made in your committee substitute.
Thank you, Chairman Albers and committee members. One of the things that I want to tell you, I said right off the bat, I don't want anybody out there driving an automobile at any speed without their full attention on what they're doing. Being distracted, impaired, DUI, under the influence, that's dangerous, and we want to stop it. As the chairman of transportation, I can tell you, I take the badge that I wear very seriously, and this is something that I want to move our people in places, our people around places in our state safely as we can. I want to thank Senator Jackson for bringing this to my attention. Said I was mainly focused on at a traffic light or a stop sign. Said that you could do this, and one of the things that she pointed out to me said, "Hey, you could do this in stop and go traffic the way it's read." And I said, well, let me rewrite it. Said thanks to our great legislative council, but basically the only way that you can pick up your phone is when you're at a complete and full stop at a traffic control device, which in plain language, that means a stop sign or traffic signal. Said most people call them red lights. I don't know anybody that calls them green lights. Said we like to keep things moving. We'd like them to be green for you every time you want to go somewhere. But that's the change. That's the only change in the bill. And it's one of those things that, I will ask, and I think you're going to have some different folks testify today. Everybody in here realizes we're not in the perfect world. If we were, said we'd all click our heels and show up where we needed to be. But because we're realists, said our job as legislators is to make the lives of 10.5 million Georgia citizens better every day. This is something that I feel very passionate about. Because I'm going to remind you, because I'm not sure if everybody was here when we talked before. Back up, and I'll ask the folks behind me to do this as well. Take a look at your right kneecap. Said, and focus on your right kneecap. If you can see me raise your hand and you're looking at your right kneecap, you're that one in a gazillion, because nobody else has that kind of peripheral vision. You can't see that. And so for me, what I'm telling you is to get that phone in the cradle when you're driving. But if you're sitting still, said if you put it up here closer to where your field of vision is, you can see what's going on around you. And for me, that's what I want to focus on, is make it a little bit better for our Georgia citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You do have a question, if you could stay for a moment. I've got a question from Senator Robertson.
How you doing, Mr. Chair?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm sorry, I was tied up at another meeting, and then on my way over here, I got distracted by my phone. But
Were you driving?
huh?
Were you driving?
I'm always moving
Did
fast.
you come to a complete stop?
No, sir, I did not come to a complete stop. Mr. Chairman, you and I have discussed this before, and I know you've looked in other states and tried to determine what their laws were and the successes and failures within those states. And I'm curious, in the process, did you determine the number of maybe following too close accidents that happen? Because I know many times at red lights, citizens driving vehicles tend to look at the device, the light. And when the light goes from red to green, everybody takes that as go. A lot of times not realizing that the vehicle in front of them has not started moving yet or something like that. And I will go out on a very thin limb here and say that my friends involved in EMS and others respond to a lot of accidents where citizens are injured or hurt from being hit from the rear end. Those types of accidents seem to be much greater than somebody being T-boned by running a red light or other types of accidents that would normally occur on interstates and everywhere where speed a lot of time is a factor, and most distractions impact lane changes and things of that nature. But within municipalities where stop signs and traffic signals tend to be in greater numbers, the vast majority of those kind of crashes are rear end crashes where the vehicle number one doesn't pay attention and strikes vehicle number two. Did you have any opportunity to look at those types of?
I appreciate your question. I wish I had all the answers. One of the things is, as you know, I don't have access to all of that data. I'll be glad to work with you on getting that data. But one of the things that, I can tell you, I don't think that when we look at our neighboring states, many of y'all, you heard me say that one of the state patrolmen downstairs said, hey, I think that's the law in Florida. So I checked that out. Well, I've also checked out with my good friends over in Senate Research, said it's allowed to do this in Florida. You can do this in Tennessee. You can do this in South Carolina. Some of our neighboring states allow this. And so for me, we're not that much different than any of those folks. I don't think they see any higher crash rate than we do. And so, matter of fact, I think what you'll find out in Georgia is we pay a lot more for insurance and things than you do in these other states. So maybe it's safer for somebody to be up here looking and have that peripheral vision. For me, I know it's a lot more effective for somebody to see what's out there in front of them, whether it be a pedestrian, a bicyclist, another motorist, or the traffic light. And with that, said happy to take any other questions.
But quick follow-up, and I appreciate that, and I know you've put some work into it, and I'd be more than happy if this passes out of the committee today to work with you on getting those kind of numbers. But do you think maybe the insurance premium rates don't have anything to do necessarily with people being allowed to hold their phones, but they may have something to do with the fact that we have more crashes in Georgia?
Well, let's get our better drivers, but why are we having more crashes? And that's where, for me, I can tell you, y'all have seen it. Somebody that's breaking the law said because the law is currently you can't hold your phone, so they're actually breaking the law to look at their device, but they're hiding it. They're trying to put it down here where it can't be seen. And when they do that, said they're totally oblivious to what's going on around them, and that's dangerous. And so for me, I want to make our world a little bit better and get this bill passed. And quite honestly, this is where, for me, if I can get it through this committee, I'll take my chances on the floor. I know it's very controversial. There are a lot of people that don't understand why you bring a bill like this forward. And there'll be people that will testify just because they've never thought about it. I've had retired policemen. I've had active policemen that they look at it and said, okay, well, yeah, I understand why that makes more sense.
Thank you. I do want to add one point of clarification, Chairman. Again, thank you for sending over the information via email for some of the other states. I did actually look that up as well, and I did not check Florida, but I did check the other states around us. And those that have what's called the lawfully parked or stop does not include a stoplight nor a traffic stop signal.
I'm depending on our attorneys, Mr. Chairman. If I misquoted something in there, I think Carla said I think she's done the research, so I'm gonna defer to her.
So from what I found, Florida did allow it, but their language was kind of different with the stationary language instead of lawfully parked or stop. I was finding that Tennessee and South Carolina did, and Alabama and North Carolina did not allow.
Correct, yeah. So I did not look up Florida, to be fair, at this point, but I did look up in each one of those states what lawfully parked or stopped meant, and it does not include a stop sign or stop light. It is when the car is pulled over or in a parking spot and the car is put into the park mode and not in gear. So
Thank you. And one of the things to clarify on this, if you pulled off the roadway, said which currently, unless you're in park, said I'm like, if you pulled off the side of the road, you could hold your phone. That's one of the things. I want to make sure that we're not endangering the public.
I've got a question from Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for working with me to correct some things. So with this substitute, I just want to be clear. So some of the concerns with the previous one was that you could text or look at your phone during stop and go traffic. This bill now will correct that and not make that possible. If you were stopped for a pedestrian to cross the road, like we're supposed to do, since there's no traffic control device there, you wouldn't be allowed to look at your phone at that point either. Is that correct?
Well, and when we look at pedestrian crossings, said hopefully they're not taking that long to get across. Said so we don't want you looking at your thing. We want you watching the pedestrian.
Okay, and if you're in a school lane, like at a carpool lane, would you be allowed to look at your phone then? Since there's no stop sign or there's no stoplight, so I think this clears this up and make sure that you're not using your phone.
That'd be stop and go traffic in my mind.
Right. And I think in your bill that makes that fairly clear too. And then also, does this bill clear it up so that if you stop for an emergency vehicle to go by, right? So you see the lights and sirens, you stop.
That's not a traffic control device.
That's not traffic controlled, and so that would solve that problem as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we kind of clean those things up.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate your help on pointing out, what I needed to do to clean up the language.
Senator Robertson again.
To clarify, I have pedestrian crossings in my district that these are individuals who run on trails, the thread, the fall line trace, where we've taken old rail bed and converted them into walking trails and biking trails. And when they get to crossing roads, what looks like a normal pedestrian crossing, they can hit a button and it sends a flash.
Then it would be a traffic control device.
So what you're telling me is I pull up there in my F-150 with a 6-inch lift on it, looking through the windshield, they my obligation is to stop. And while I am stopped, I would be allowed to pick my phone up and look at my phone and do stuff like that.
If you stay stopped, said the at a traffic control device, said the and put it down, then you can drive.
Well-
As long as you're sitting perfectly at I believe the language on the bill is a complete and full stop. A full and complete stop. Said so for me, and that's what we want you to do. I don't want to pick apart how people's driving tactics are, but for me, it is very important that we understand the only time that I would ever want somebody to touch their phone is at a full and complete stop. I want our friends in law enforcement, and you know a lot of them, said to focus on this. And one of the things I did, had this discussion with a lot of law enforcement folks. I think everybody in here's day is about 24 hours. And we start talking about law enforcement, said for me, that's a finite amount of time that somebody could sit there and write out citations. I want to make sure that we focus on the problem. And the problem is a moving vehicle, not a stationary vehicle. The moving vehicle is going to be the one that in the accident that can hurt people, whether it's those people in the car or those people on the outside. Those are the ones I want to get off the road. Y'all see them. You go up and down the interstate. You see people holding their phone, doing things distracted. That's the ones I want to focus on. I want to get those moving vehicles. So at your crosswalk, you're exactly right. I don't want you moving. Said you set that phone down. If you and I believe, and we have lawyers in the room that are much smarter than me, but I believe a crosswalk device, flashing device, would be classified as a traffic control device. I'm not sure, said but I wouldn't suggest it.
No, I think it is too. I agree with you on that. It is too. Now, if a cyclist or a pedestrian's in front of me and I'm looking at my phone and I look up and notice the device is now green for some other reason, or being distracted by my phone, I lose train of thought, and I go forward and I run over this person in my truck. Who makes the determination that when I tell them I was looking at my phone as to whether I was at a full stop or whether I was doing a California roll or whatever? Because the officers aren't going to be sitting at every intersection, every stop sign, and every other traffic device looking for people. We're not hunting over baited fields trying to catch somebody holding their phone with their tires rolling. So this after action is we're there responding to an accident, trying to ascertain exactly what caused the accident.
And Senator Robertson, Chairman Robertson said, I know that when we look, we don't live in that perfect world, and anything that you do behind the wheel of your automobile, you're responsible for. And that's where, for me, running over pedestrians, running over bicyclists, said being involved in an accident, said they'll be pretty easy to figure out. Said that okay, here's your 6,000-pound truck and a pedestrian or bicyclist that you did something wrong.
Well, Senator, and I appreciate this, and you're somebody I look up to, an elder, if you will.
Yes, Santa.
But I have smoke detectors in my house, and I have a fire extinguisher in my kitchen. Not because my house has ever caught on fire or if I've ever started a fire.
Teresa's a good cook.
Teresa's a good cook, and she doesn't start fires in the kitchen. But I think those of us in public safety, we do have to consider the driving habits of the public, the good ones and the bad ones. And I do think it's smart to have smoke detectors and fire extinguishers in my house. So I think what we always have to do when we talk about public safety is err on the side of caution and look at the worst case scenario as opposed to how you may drive, how I may drive, or any other committee member may drive. So that's my biggest concern about loosening up the regulations when it comes to managing a cellular device inside of your vehicle. So,
and I appreciate that.
thank you.
Okay, we've got a few people that want to speak, so if you could make yourself comfortable, we'll call you back up at the end, Senator. We'll start out with Charles Brooks with the Georgia Association of Solicitor Generals. Please come on down, and he's yours? All right, well, you've just been claimed by Senator C.
I certainly will, Senator. Chairman and committee, thank you for having me. My name is Charles Brooks. I'm Solicitor General in Clayton County, and I sit here before you as a representative of the Georgia Association of Solicitor Generals. I'm the vice president of the association and legislative committee chair. I am before you asking this committee to oppose SB 356. The misconception is that distracted driving is wholly or the result of handling or holding a device. But the truth of it is that it's the substance. It's the substance of that device, the content of that device that distracts people. Now, that doesn't mean that do away with the hands-free law altogether. But the point that I'm making is that driving in and of itself is an inherently divided attention task. You're manipulating your radio, your air conditioning, your windshield wipers, whatever, your brakes, your acceleration, all of that things divides your attention already. A driver at a stop sign or at a red light, focusing on the substance of their device, and then look up and see a green light, very well may miss that pedestrian that's crossing the street. And I've seen that. I've prosecuted that. Many of us in my profession have. And what I'm saying is that to impair the attention of drivers by allowing them to this additional exception, the exception eventually will eat the rule. And that's what we want to avoid in public safety. The consequences otherwise could be fatal for both pedestrians and drivers. There are studies out of the University of Iowa as well as the University of Utah that state that even folks with hands-free infotainment devices in their vehicles, even folks with hand-free infotainment devices in their vehicles, they do not retain their full attention on driving for at least 10 to 27 seconds after putting the device at rest. And so with that in mind, I'm asking that this committee, on behalf of the association, oppose House Senate Bill 356. I'm open to questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Thank you so much for your time. Okay, next, Derek Norton, MAG.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to be before you today. I come to you with two hats on. First, representing the Medical Association of Georgia, and secondly, as the mayor of the city of Smyrna. And before I start, I just want to say I've got the utmost respect for the chairman. It was probably 20 years or more ago that my car broke down in Franklin County, and who came to my rescue but Frank Ginn. That was years and years ago before cell phones, and it was a simpler time when we weren't having these kind of discussions. So, and I appreciate your time earlier today speaking about what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. The Medical Association of Georgia, our position, we worked hard to pass this bill a few years ago, and our position is you shouldn't have the phone in your hand while you're behind the wheel for any reason. When you have it in your hand, bad things happen. If you're, whether you're stopped at a light or not, you're distracted, and the tendency or you would be more likely, if once you kind of re-engage in the process, whether you're honked at or the light changes or whatever, to hit that pedestrian that's in the crosswalk, or to hit that bicyclist, or rear end somebody, or hit that person that's running through the red light. So MAG's position is we don't want any changes on this bill. We think it's good as it is, and that our roads will be less safe if this change is made. With my City of Smyrna hat on, in addition to the safety measures, we were the first municipality to pass distracted driving ordinance, and even before the state did. So we went through these discussions about safety and a lot of different things. And one of the other things that came up in addition to safety concerns was traffic flow. So with our traffic engineer telling us that if any delay, 2 to 3 seconds or more, disrupts the traffic light synchronization. So all of the patterns that are put together from a traffic engineering point of view are disturbed if they're based on people that are going to be starting when the light turns green and whatever. If you're delayed, and we've all seen it, you're second or third in line, and the person doesn't go, and it's 3 seconds, and it's 4 seconds, and it's 5 seconds. That matters, and so you got one person's convenience checking their phone, causing hundreds of people's inconvenience. And so, for moving people in and out of our city, particularly during peak times, we believe this would not help that at all. So that's all I had. I really appreciate the opportunity to be before you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
You do have a question. Is that Senator Payne?
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, very well. Just had a question. Do you ride a motorcycle?
I don't.
Well, I do, and I just, one of the things that concerns me and why I'm listening attentively to this is because what I see, and I'm focused on eyes on a motorcycle. In my truck, I'm looking at a car. But when I'm on my motorcycle, I'm looking for your eyes. And what I see every day when I ride my motorcycle is this. Every day. And I would much rather have those eyes up here, as Senator Gann said, than to have them down here. So there has to be a happy medium. I'm searching for that happy medium because, I disagree with my friend. You can't outlaw accidents, or if you start going down every path to outlaw everything that could be dangerous, we're no longer going to be a free country real fast, or a free state, because you have to have that give and take when it comes to personal liberties. And, just for the same reason I ride the motorcycle and I wear my helmet. And if I go to South Carolina where they have no helmet law, I still wear my helmet because, it's just common sense to me. But that's the liberty that's given to me to choose in South Carolina if I do that. Some of that has to be give and take on the person that's behind the wheel. But I just, what would you say as far as those people who are, we can't deny the fact that people are driving with their eyes and their hand down here.
They are, but they are.
And they're still distracted, but now they're not only distracted, but their eyes are nowhere in the vicinity of what they're doing.
I believe right now there's a penalty associated with doing that. I don't believe that and MAG wouldn't believe that a change like this would suddenly everybody's going to be looking at it like this. They're still going to be, I think they're still going to be distracted, and adding this just makes people more distracted than they would be otherwise. So we don't support making this change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Got one more question. Is that Senator Anderson? Or no, it's Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I signed on as a co-sponsor with Senator Ginn's bill because when I signed on the bill, he came and talked to me about it, told me what was going on. And I told him something, and I'll probably be the only one at the table to admit this. I probably break the law with my phone. Even the laws I signed and voted for, I probably break the law because I touch my phone for maps. I touch my phone, it's on a cradle, but I probably touch my phone and I probably distract myself looking away from my phone. Now, having said that, I try to do the best I can, but there's texts and calls coming in all the time. I wear a device all the time where I don't have to touch my phone. I wear this, I almost sleep in it, to keep me from having to touch my phone. But my point to you, telling you this is I break the law, and I hate to admit that, but I'm going to admit it to the table. I break the law because I'll do this sometimes to check my phone. I'll put my phone in my hand and go down here and type in, and sometimes the guy behind me is going to blow the horn and tell me to get the heck out of the way. But I will do this. And having said that, that's why I voted, because again, what Senator Payne said, we can't do all the laws, and we can't legislate completely out of the world. And I'm assuming it's working in Florida. I'm assuming it's working in the other states that Senator Ginn mentioned, and that's why I signed on to it, because I'll tell you something. This is just in the last 4 days now. I've only been tracking this for 4 days. And I travel up and down the road. Guys, I live 150 miles south of here. I have seen 9 state patrol officers, 2 sheriff's department people using their phone while riding down the highway. Okay? And I'm 100% back in the blue. 100%. They're using their phone, going down the road. I'm running 80 and they're passing me. Okay? I look over and I see people like Senator Payne just said, riding down the road, got their eyes focused down here, and they're using their phone down so the cop can't see them touching their phone or holding their phone up in the air or see the light on at nighttime. But I can ride by there and see the light in their car or their truck, because I'm driving the F-150 jacked up like Senator Randy over here, and looking down, and I see them using their telephone. I'm thinking to myself, they're distracted. They're looking down. They're not looking. You don't see their eyes. And that's another. That's why I signed on the co-sponsor this bill, because I think we got to have a happy meeting here. I just want you to know, Jeff, I understand what you're saying, but somewhere down the line, and I don't know that anybody sitting in this room wants to admit it, but I'd almost be willing to bet you everybody here breaks the law on their telephone. Am I right?
You're right, probably nobody will admit it.
Yeah.
Senator,
Nobody wants to admit it, but probably everybody wants to admit it. But
Senator Summers,
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
hang on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
After this committee meeting, we've got a few gentlemen outside that want to have a chat with you. Thank you for your comments. I just going to take a moment to echo what I told Senator again the last time. There's Google Assistant and there's Siri on an Apple phone for the two phone manufacturers, and you can talk to them all day long. They'll tell you when there's an email and you can reply. They'll tell you when there's a text message to reply. They'll tell you when your calendar's appointment there. You can tell what music you want it to play, and you can do that all by voice. You can even put your phone in your out of reach completely if you'd like to, but that's your prerogative to do what you do. We also, though I do want to remind people, had a stipulation in the first bill in order to have a device cradled, so you could put it that way. And there's no less than 400,000 options on Amazon to choose a different type of cradle that would fit your car. I think Senator Robertson's got one that's in a cup holder. I've got one that is made specifically for my car that clips on to certain places that puts it at eye level. Other people use ones that come out of their heating and air conditioning vents. Other people use ones that suction cup to their windshield. So there are options out there as well. In fact, I think we built that in the law for that very purpose. Derek, are there any other comments you'd like to make?
No, I just think we're all trying to do the same thing, make our road safer. We just have a little bit different idea about how we're doing it. So,
Absolutely.
and if anybody would like to make an admission of breaking the law after me, that's fine. Thank you.
We'll be taking statements later. Miss Jenny Hartley, Montlick and Associates, come on down.
Thank you. Montlick and Associates? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to speak in opposition of Senate Bill 356, and my name is Jenny Hardy with Montlick and Associates. I'm the Community Relations and I Ride Safe Program Director. Montlick and Associates is committed to keeping our roads safe and saving lives, and the firm was actively involved in passing the hands-free law back in 2018. To permit a driver to while the vehicle is stopped, to use their phone to surf or scroll or dial or text is a dangerous driving behavior and should not be permitted in our state. I want to share that research from the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety states that it can take our brains up to 27 seconds to reorient ourselves after using a cell phone. Motorists could miss seeing pedestrians, other vehicles, and changing traffic signals while the mind is readjusting to the task of driving. Let me ask you this. Do you remember the most recent time you were held up at an intersection because the driver ahead of you wasn't aware that the light had changed? Should Senate Bill 356 pass, imagine the impact on traffic flow. Perhaps even contributing to a further rise in road rage incidents. The hands-free Georgia law has always been about saving lives and keeping our roads safe. The hands-free Georgia law has merit and positive results. We urge you to not backtrack on progress in order to accommodate people who are not obeying the current law. We must continue to fight to keep our roads safe and saving lives. I respectfully ask the members of this committee to vote no on Senate Bill 356. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Hartley? I'm sorry, Hardy.
Hardy.
I'm sorry.
Party hardy.
Hardy.
There you go.
but you're not the For the People group. Okay, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
testimony. We're going to continue on to our friend Butch Ayers, head of the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. That's a very nice red dress, yes.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Butch Ayers, and I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. I have more than 35 years of law enforcement experience here in the metropolitan Atlanta area. Today I'm here to speak on Senate Bill 356. As we have all observed on many occasions, drivers are still holding and using their cell phones in violation of the law while stopped at red lights. Although there may seem to be little risk of this particular behavior, risk do remain when someone is stopped at a stop sign or a stoplight. Drivers stopped at red lights and using handheld cell phones are often not paying attention to what is occurring outside their vehicle. They're not paying attention to pedestrians, cyclists, other motorists, or traffic signals. This inattention causes them to either miss advanced turn signals or green lights, causing additional roadway congestion while elevating the tempers of other motorists who are stuck waiting for the cell phone user to move forward. A driver concentrating on his or her phone while stopped at a red light would be completely oblivious to an approaching criminal on foot. And finally, we believe that allowing the use of handheld devices while stopped at a red light will only lead to additional cell phone usage by drivers while slowing for a red light, as well as leaving or starting from a red light on a green light. For this reasons, Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police cannot support this bill. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Question for Mr. Ayers. Not a member of the committee, but I'll ask a question. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They have to get a different microphone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Said one of the things that there is an exclusion in an existing law for law enforcement to be able to use a device anytime they want to. Said and I know, as a former local government manager for 20 years, said as somebody that serves on the police academy and works hand in hand with our law enforcement community, most of the law enforcement guys I work with have a full laptop sitting up on the screen beside of them, have their mobile device, have radios, communications, all kind of things. It's very important to do. Said and I know they're trained professionals. Said one of the things that for me, I don't want to see anybody in the public driving with it. How many hours are in your day?
My day, it's probably 8.5, 10 hours.
Mine's 24. And so if we put our law enforcement out there to focus on those people that are moving with a distracted driver, holding their phone, would that not be better served than the one that's stationary? Because the one that's absolutely stationary, and that's a full and complete stop, would they not be better off to focus on those people that are moving? If you're starting to slow down or you're starting to speed up, give them a ticket. That's what I want you to do. If they're driving with that vehicle, they're not paying attention. Said we have laws for that. If they're impeding traffic, I want you to give them a ticket. But for me, I don't want to make criminals out of our Georgia citizens. And what we're doing right now is because these people are hiding it, said they're not focused on what's around them, and it's dangerous. And for me, this is a way that I think we can improve our traffic flow and we can still enforce the law. And this correction of behavior will make it safer for us. And that's where, for me, because you can only give so many tickets. You only have so much time in any day. And I want you to focus on the ones that are killing people.
Well, Senator, I'm sure that, I don't know the exact specifics on law enforcement there, but I would imagine that most traffic units are spending the majority of their time dealing with moving violations. I guess our position here is we don't want to normalize something that if you're used to handling a cell phone right now, then it becomes more of a normalized thing. Well, I'll pick it up because I know the stoplight's right up there. I'm coming to a stop. And then pretty soon on down
Give them a ticket.
But, I've got is like the Chairman Albers stated, there's 101 different things you can do as far as hands-free devices. I have a hands-free device, and it's taken me probably 8 or 9 different devices to figure out the one that I could best use. But just for law enforcement's sake, we want to make it safe for everybody, and you just don't stop being safe when you're stopped at a stoplight. There are still dangers. There are still, when you're focused in on that telephone or whatever you're doing with your hands-free device, holding it in your hands, you're oblivious in what's going on. And we see these things that happen on the streets of cities where a carjacker walks up to somebody and something like that, and had the person not been looking down here or doing, they may have been more aware of their surroundings. And that's what I teach my family members and my daughters is, you have a hands-free device, but be aware of your surroundings at all times. But I certainly appreciate the question, sir.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll let you go here and bring up Mr. Bob Dallas. Thank you.
Chairman Ginn. I spoke to you the other day, obviously, and as you know, was the director of Governor's Office of Highway Safety under Governor Perdue. I continue to work on this issue by the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, which is sponsored by both GDOT and the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, specifically on the Distracted Driving Committee. And I've kept up with this a lot. And, you know, when I spoke last time, I wanted to make it clear, we spent 1 year visiting the entire state, meeting with all the stakeholders, asking them what should Georgia's hands-free law look like if we have one. That included law enforcement. And what we ended up in the law today had the input from a huge cross-section of law enforcement, from sheriff's deputies, officers, to state patrol, as well as all the emergency responders, as well as public health, as well as the doctors and nurses and the engineers who put the stuff up that we call it traffic control devices. And what I have before you is a document, several documents that try to answer some of the questions that you had. So yes, there are grants available from NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. These are the states that have the law that allow them to get the grants. Georgia, and the criteria are below that on this page, is shy of meeting it by 2. One, we allow teens to use devices. It used to not be that way. And secondly, our law says you can be fined up to $50. NHTSA's requirement is it has to be $25 or more. So that's the only reason that we don't qualify for what would essentially be $2 million that could be used to help educate Georgia citizens on why they shouldn't drive distracted. The second thing I want to point out is I attached a summary and attached the abstracts to 3 different studies that I think are very important to note, because they answer the questions that we don't know. At least myself, I'm not an expert in this specifically in terms of behavior, but what we find from the first study is that you will have a delayed start from people who use their device, wherever that device is, whether it's on your knee or whether it's right in front of you. If you're using it, you will have a delay. The second one talks about folks starting to use the device as they're entering this traffic stop, or secondly, for seconds afterwards. That's a very common thing, and the studies have shown that that's what occurs. The third point I want to point out is we all like to say everybody's doing it, so we should make it legal. A lot of people are doing it, but not everybody. And the study, that third one, says about 17% of the people. If we pass this law, expect it to be 100%, because now people will start using it and clarity goes away. Now, I did not see the amendment until just now, or heard about the amendment, but even with the amendment, let me tell you what would be allowed. You could use your device at a 4-way stop. And I don't know about you, but if you've been with 4-way stops and somebody's using a device, that's not a good thing. You'd be able to use your device when when you're stopped at a pedestrian with a beacon, as was described earlier. That is a bad idea in my opinion. You'd be able to use your device at the ramp meters that are going onto the interstate, because it tells you to stop. You could use your device then. And this is a question in terms of what is a traffic control device. If an officer tells you to stop, then is he or she serving as a traffic control device? I'll leave it to the lawyers to answer that more later. But as was emphasized here, last year we did pass a law that allowed people to put their devices on the windscreen as well as anywhere, as long as it doesn't block their view. Engineers, and you heard from the mayor earlier, the phases of the lights really require us to be paying attention to the entirety of the intersection. And if we allow this, you will have more people not paying attention and more delay, and therefore, I believe, more congestion. And
We've got several people that need to speak.
okay, I'm sorry.
So if you
I
could
will
wrap up,
close with
please.
this. You asked the question earlier, what is the balancing point? What is that? When we considered the law, what we said is you could have one swipe. And we spent a lot of time saying what one person could do that would not distract them. And so when your device is sitting there in your holder, you can have a swipe. And of course, today you have more sophisticated communications by voice. So the things that have been brought up had been considered, and that's why we have the law as we do today. By the way, you may not know this, but Georgia for 2021 will probably exceed 1,800 crash deaths. More than we ever have, period, in any given year. Led by pedestrian crash deaths, of which this is a big issue.
Thank you.
Thank
And, Senator, again, if you can make this quick, we're running out of time.
You fail to recognize that our law enforcement has a lot of tools in their tool bag. If you're impeding the flow of traffic, that's a whole nother citation.
It can be, without a doubt. But I'm saying for enforcement purposes, having it as it is today allows law enforcement to enforce this law, which is otherwise admittedly a very difficult law to enforce when people are moving.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. I'm going to bring up our current Director of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, Mr. Alan Poole. Good to see you as always.
Thank you so much, committee members. Thank you all for allowing me to come just to share a little bit of information with you. And by the way, let me say, I look a whole lot better than Bob, so we'll keep that in mind.
Second.
Thank you, Senator. First of all, Mr. Senator, I'd like to say that I'm a retired Georgia State Trooper, and I'd just like to share just a couple of data points with you. If this law goes forward, it could set us back more than 10 years. In 2000, we were trending less than 1,000 people being killed on the highways. In 2022, like Mr. Dallas just stated, we're looking to be close to 1,900 fatalities. This is a common sense law that we're looking at. We can't legislate everything, but one life is important. One life, and we've done a good job of moving towards eradicating fatalities on the highway. During that 10-year period, we've had an increase of from 35 to 85% of cell phone usage in this state. The number of people killed in this state by distracted drivers went down by 47% since we passed this hands-free bill. So, as a state trooper, let me just say, we learned that distracted driving was a key component to operating a vehicle on the roadways of this state. When I get out there and drive, I'm focused on doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's operating that vehicle, which could potentially kill somebody. And so what I'm sort of, I want you to understand that, Webster have defined accident as an unintentional act. And when people are sitting there at a stop sign or a traffic light, they're focused on that phone. And if someone steps out in that crosswalk to cross the street, they have the potential, it's a 55% increase of them being struck by a vehicle because somebody wasn't paying attention. And so these are it's just a few data points that I wanted to share with you, and I encourage you to focus on one thing, and that's driving and operating the vehicle and not being worried about that cell phone. Yes, we can't legislate everything, but we can focus on putting down that cell phone and going to where you gotta go instead of trying to pay attention to the cell phone. And I yield to any question, Mr. Chairman.
You do have a couple of questions. First one, I believe, is Senator C.
I'm sorry, it's not a question.
It's not a question. Okay.
You want me to go ahead and say it now?
If you'd like to make a statement, please go right ahead.
I just want to make sure that if this is publicized, and I think it is, the seniors that called me last evening after seeing your good advertisement, you got a lot of it yesterday, 3 words: distracted, hands-free. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, number 3, is that Senator Payne?
Yes, sir. You gave a lot of good information as far as the numbers. My question is, in those numbers, what are the number of fatalities every year because people are interfacing with the factory interfacing system of a computer screen in their dash now, that just not simply pushing 1 of 5 buttons to change a radio station. Now you're actually looking at a screen to make music change that you're listening to in your car? Or do you have numbers to show how many of those distractions are taking or causing accidents in our state?
Mr. Senator, I don't have those numbers. I can provide them for you, if you allow me to do that.
And you can legally do that while you're driving your car?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We have, thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it. Mr. Bobby Potter with State Farm.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you.
All right.
Bobby Potter on behalf of State Farm. I would just echo ditto to a number of these comments that have been made without restating them. I would say that we travel the state being supportive of the distracted driving legislation for the last several years. Weren't in the middle of it, but we're certainly around it, and we're supportive of that. I would have said before Senator Summers said it, that while we don't speak for everybody, more than likely most of us would acknowledge we do exactly that at a red light and sometimes at a stop sign. We do it, and then more than likely we've been in the car right behind the person that does it. That just makes you mad, particularly when you miss the light because of it. It's just a fact. And it's a fact that it is distracting. Senator Payne, there are other things in the car that are certainly distracting, particularly with the advance of technology and the big screens there and reaching over for the air conditioner. And in the way back years, the radio. It's distracting. But really, virtually nothing is more distracting than this device that's almost addictive. When it pings, you just want to look at it. And it's a concern. So the other stat, the stat I would give you is from the Federal Highway Administration. More than 50% of vehicular accidents occur in an intersection. And from that same source, the statistics are more than 50% of those are caused by inattention, a part of which is distracted driving because of these devices. This would legitimize some things and move this back and weaken this law, and we're concerned about that. So that's what I would share with you, and I'd ask you to oppose.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Potter? Seeing none.
Thank you.
In your folder track you just handed out was a letter. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I've been delinquent on the microphone today. Vice Chairman Harper's helping. In your hand should be a letter from AAA, who wanted to be here today but were unable to attend in person. So here's the posture of the committee and what we're going to do. We did receive a committee sub this morning. We like to get those 24 hours in advance. There is a lot of folks that have concerns here right now. We've got solicitors, Medical Association of Georgia, trial lawyers, chiefs of police, Governor's Office Highway Safety, AAA, and State Farm. That's enough that we need to talk about this a little bit more, but I am willing to work in earnest with you to get to a point where we get folks more agreeable to that and give the committee a chance to read through the committee sub in a little more timing. And we're going to lose the room right now.
Can I make one comment? I'll step out on the here. Can you let me?
Of course.
You know, I've hosted a lot of international students. I'm on my 23rd Rotary student that we host. Said they back in the 90s, I had one that came over from Germany. It's kind of interesting because when he got in our car, he looked and he said, "Y'all have drink holders in the car?" He was literally surprised that you could have a drink holder in an automobile. I love Senator Payne said I started looking at my sister's. Oh, she bought a new Buick, and I'm like, how is this thing going to work? You know, why do we get the radio? And I was a passenger sitting in the automobile. We all live distracted lives. Since I've been sitting here, all of the folks that have testified that I could see are working on their phone while they're sitting here leading committee. They're doing the same thing that we're doing. We're humans. I'm trying to make us a little safer and make sure that you're sitting still when you're doing it. If you don't want to pass the bill out of here, said that I'll ask for you to allow this bill to go to another committee because I want to try to make life better for our Georgia citizens. I would ask for your vote, whether it's today or whenever, but I do want to get the bill moving. I do want to make life better for our Georgia citizens. I think they're capable of doing that.
And Senator, as I mentioned, I will work with you gladly. We do have a policy that we get committee substitutes 24 hours in advance. We did get this about 4.5 hours in advance. So that is part of our process to make sure we're doing things right. I'm going to give a very, very brief comment to Senator Harper and Senator Robertson because we are already past time. There's another committee that needs to meet here.
Senator, again, is it illegal to eat and drive at the same time?
If it's distracting.
Is it illegal to drink and drive at the same time?
If it's distracting.
Drink of water, by the way, not an alcoholic beverage.
Thank you for clarifying.
Is it illegal to drink a bottle of water at a red light under current Georgia law?
To my knowledge, no.
Georgia law says a driver shall exercise due care in operating a motor vehicle on the highways of this state and shall not engage in any action which shall distract the driver from safe operation of such vehicle. So, is it illegal to drink a bottle of water at a red light in this state? Is it illegal to change the air conditioner in your vehicle according to the Georgia law?
That's at discretion.
Is it illegal to change your radio and operate the fancy computers in your vehicle under current Georgia law?
And I think most courts would say that that's a standard practice that we do.
And maybe this is a better question for the solicitor, because I'm just curious, how many tickets do we actually write under Georgia law for drivers participating in distracting activities other than use of a electronic device? And I think that's something that, I said this last year in committee when we were discussing this issue, is I think there are a lot of things that we overlook when it comes to the law, but we're specifically talking about one particular thing, and we don't look at all the other things that actually, if you take a hard read of Georgia law, it actually prohibits a lot of those activities.
Chairman, I was on the Mark Aram show Friday night. We talked about different things, but one of them that I brought to everybody's attention, there's a hot dog stand in Colbert, Georgia. I'd watch 10-wheeler drivers come in their dump truck, and they leave with 2 chili cheese dogs, and I know I didn't want to meet that guy on the road. So for me, I understand distracted driving.
Thank you. Okay, Senator Robertson.
Just briefly, I've heard of a lot of exceptions here, and we can't protect everybody, and you are absolutely right, we can't protect everybody. But I took an oath to protect as many people as possible, Taking and allowing somebody to be distracted more so by the most addictive device that has ever been created is like telling law enforcement agencies to get rid of Narcan, because when we come across somebody having an overdose of a drug, not to use it because they made a choice. Our job up here, and Senator Ginn, you know, you and I talked about this, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. Sometimes I think that we get offended because we carry legislation and there's pushback on it, and that's fine. But this right here is my concern, are the people out there driving the right way, doing the things they're supposed to do, and because somebody inside that vehicle, and look, you know, not everybody does it. I'm not gonna say I haven't touched my phone. I drive a big truck. I put 5-finger death punch on and let my navigator speak to me in whatever voice I choose and direct me where I'm going. But I know I drive what my wife calls as an obnoxious vehicle. And I know that vehicle can be dangerous on the road, so I put my full attention on there. I try to carry my phone as little as possible. In fact, it came from a meeting directly here, I wouldn't have my phone on me right now. The most addictive device that people cannot get off of, especially teenagers. And I'm gonna tell you, if it goes to another committee, then I'm gonna be at that committee too. Because I took an oath over 35 years ago, and I'm gonna do my job, and this is a dangerous piece of legislation.
Okay.
One of the things that I was an old 4-H'er.
Senator, we cannot do another story now. Senator, we can't do another story now. I appreciate everybody's comments, but we are already at a room that somebody else deserves. We will have further comments about it. I appreciate everybody's feedback. Thank you.